we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, welcome along, and thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Of course, welcome in. We appreciate you. Here we are approaching this Thursday, a big program as always. Scott Agnes from The Athletic coming to us from Las Vegas as the NBA Summer League is going on out there. Also, down south, Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star. He's at the Adidas Gauntlet, which gets started today. Yesterday, the Peach Jam gets started, so we got a lot to talk about. The ESPYs were last night. Bob Knight's moving back to Bloomington for sure. We'd heard that for a long, long time, but plenty to get to. Met with some IU football players yesterday. Victor Oladipo's coming in town. Got all kinds of stuff going on, man. Luckily, when it rains, it pours. But, the NBA Summer League continues. Looking forward to talking to Scott Agnes from The Athletic. He's been out there for a couple of days, covering the Pacers, obviously, and well as everything else going on. Last night, the ESPYs were on. I don't know if you had a chance to catch that. I was watching all of it, but I only caught like half of it seems like. So Tracy Morgan was the host. He did okay. Nothing special. He didn't try too hard, so that was pretty good. Not a bad deal at all. NC State, man, the hammer's falling now from the NCAA as the fallout from the FBI corruption trial into college basketball is starting to show itself as the NCAA has made it known that they are being investigated. Problems in down in North Carolina for the Staters, for the Wolfpack. Archie Miller's alma mater, by the way. Mark Gottfried is now, I think, is it Cal Poly where he's coaching? He's coaching somewhere out west now. He's not even at North Carolina State. But one of the level 1 violations was lack of institutional control or failure to monitor the program. And that's a big one. And that's leveled at the head coach. That could affect his current job, which is how it should be, not punishing all those that's left behind that are no longer there that had nothing to do with it. That's what's been the sad thing is, so this is actually a good move. I hate that anybody's getting in trouble, but hey, if you broke the rules, you broke the rules. But it used to be if his coach had moved on and all the other guys moved on, they'd leave the school to pay the price. Well, the NCAA is going after the perpetrators. And at the head of that list is the head coach, Mark Gottfried. Be very interesting to see how that plays out. Be interesting to see how it starts. That's just the first domino to fall. That's just the first. There are many more coming. We know that. There are many involved, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm still very interested to see what's going to happen with Louisville. They were already on double secret probation when they got hammered. Now they are likely going to take it pretty rough as the school. We'll certainly see. Text into the show. I was reading about the 1984 Team USA. What a lineup. Bob Knight was coach. Played at Hoosier Dome with over 67,000 in attendance. Largest crowd for a basketball game at the time. This game was an exhibition with college players playing against NBA players. The USA team had Steve Alford, Jordan Tisdale, Perkins, Ewing, Chuck Person, who is, speaking of Chuck Person, he's one of those guys that's going to get nabbed. He was caught up in that investigation. But Chris Mullin, the NBA players, Isaiah Thomas, Bird, Parrish, Randy Whitman. Lost my place. Randy Whitman, former Hoosier, and Paxton. What a game. And the funny thing is they were wearing candy stripes. I noticed that as well. The American teams were wearing the USA tops with the candy stripe bottoms. Jordan looked good in candy stripes. Also, Alfred was fourth on the team in points, 84, behind Jordan, Mullen, and Ewing. Yeah, I watched a piece of that yesterday. It was kind of cool. Man, they were playing an NBA All-Star team. Like I said, Bird and Isaiah. It was amazing. And they won that game. They won that game. Not That's still, it is a surprise. But hey, great, but good time. Yeah, it was funny watching all that for a number of reasons. Seeing those guys in the candy stripe, seeing the Hoosier Dome. Wow, what a crowd. Yeah, the largest crowd for an indoor basketball game at the time. It was nuts. 67,000 is still one of the biggest. But it was a big one. And speaking of Bob Knight, we've been talking about, it's been rumored for months. As a matter of fact, since he came back to Bloomington last April, I think it was April 6th, and I was actually the only reporter to speak with him on that trip. Just a brief conversation, but fortunate to be that. But rumors started shortly thereafter that he was potentially going to be moving back. There's been no secret that his health has been in decline. His friends are here. And I'm just going to assume that that's why he just wants to be close to home in his last few years, just relax and be around friends. So, but here's the thing. At least one publication that I have seen, and I'm not sure if I want to call them out because that's drawing more attention to it. So I'm a party to it if I do that. But one publication I have seen has basically published the address on where he's going to be moving. Not quite the exact address, but it's pretty close. And right down to the neighborhood. I don't understand the point of that. I think that is, to me, it's irresponsible. It's ridiculous. Could that information could have been ascertained by somebody? Yeah, they would have had to put in some work, and it's not like it's impossible. They could have got it, but the average person is not going to do that. Well, they don't have to now because this publication has made it easy for thousands upon thousands of people. And to me, it's just not exactly. The guy's sick. His health is is declining. The last thing I think that someone like that needs is a circus of people, which is what it's going to be now. I don't understand the necessity of publishing that address. There was nothing to be gained other than me thinking you're a bunch of jackasses for doing it. I don't get that. What was the nothing was gained. You're not showing me journalistic skills by doing that. To me, you're showing a lack of integrity. I think it's just this. I think it's ridiculous. That's my personal opinion. It is ridiculous. I get reporting. I'm all about it. Breaking stories, all about it. There was nothing that to the story. Pretty much the exact address, not relevant to the story, not necessary. It adds nothing other than rebuke. Mike Schumann was writing a thing about the story last night, and he did not. And went on to say, hey, we're not going to, out of respect to privacy, we're not going to post the address, although some have. He had the decency to not do that. But I was shocked that someone had. That's how I found out someone had, because he mentioned it. And I'm just, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's asinine. And I'd like to know who thought that was a good idea and why. And I'm looking forward to hearing that. I don't get the necessity of outing an aging, ill person who is already a gigantic figure in this excuse me, a gigantic figure in this town. No one casts a taller shadow to this day. And he doesn't even live here yet. But do you think moving back here after all this time is not going to be a circus? And now you've gone and published his address? Unbelievable. I think it is just, I don't want to say something too bad, but I think I got my point across. I don't know what your thoughts are, your opinions are. Let me know. What do you think? You think it's okay? You think the public should know exactly where he lives? A nearly 80-year-old man who's obviously in declining health, who is the biggest figure this town has ever seen? I just am more than surprised. I'm more than surprised that they did that. Text into the show. Well, hopefully people will respect him enough to let him be. Hell no, they won't. Good people will. But you know that that's not going to be the case. There will be too many people who are just curiosity seekers. And again, it's not that this information could not have been ascertained by somebody if they wanted to put in the work. But the average person's not going to do that because the average person doesn't care that much to know exactly where he lives. Doesn't need to. But they made it easy for everybody. I'm going to wait and I'll call them out later, but it was the IDS. I mean, I guess there's no point in, well, I mean, there's no sense in not saying it. Right? It's got to be found out. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Because it's published. Now, I think the Bloomington Herald broke the story. I have not read their full story, so I have no idea whether they did or did not print the address. I'm not a subscriber to the Herald. They do great work, but so I don't know if they did or did not. I've not seen their full story, like I said. If someone has, let me know. I'd like to know if it's in there. Did they do it first? I don't even care if you I don't care if you do it second or third. It's never going to be relevant. Never. But I think they should be ashamed of themselves, personally. Anybody that broadcasts that address, I think they should be ashamed of themselves. I don't care if he was the biggest jackass in the world. It's not relevant to me. Doing that is just not relevant. Ridiculous. Text into the show. Would like to see him show up at a football or basketball game. But when he's ready, here's the thing. Bob Knight's health is not that great. He has declined mentally. I think that that's obviously not a secret. And when I say mentally, I don't mean he's going nuts. He has a form of dementia. Again, not a secret. How quickly that's progressing, I'm not sure. I'm not around him. But the fact all this stuff is happening, I think there are certain things that he's forgotten. And my honest opinion is he's forgotten his disdain for Indiana, which is a great thing. It's the only way that reconciliation was ever going to happen. And if he's feeling up to it, I'm sure he will be at a game next year. It's not going to surprise me now that he lives here. Maybe, but if his health goes too far, he probably won't. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. I can't imagine. Text into the show. The Herald Times released the address, so they probably did it first then. I think that is disgusting. That's my opinion. I don't see the relevance of that bit of information. You did not have to get that specific. I've already harped on it long enough, but unbelievable, I think. I like to know opinions of everybody else. That's just mine. That's not something I would have done. It doesn't make me right or wrong. I'm just not something I think was necessary. I think it is utterly ridiculous. And I think it's enough. Feel free to let me know what you're thinking, though. We got a lot coming up on the show. We'll talk about this a lot more. We'll talk about Bob Knight. Talk about that great game that Tim was texting about. 1984, man. That was I was watching that yesterday. It was an incredible game. And I was talking yesterday about the new rankings have come out for the 2021 class and all that. We'll talk about that. Nine guys from Indiana in the top 150. 9. That's how strong that class is. Oladipo Fantasy Camp, Peach Jam, IU baseball news. Breaking Away turns 40. We got a ton to talk about today. On the show, Scott Agnes. He's from The Athletic, of course, coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada, while the NBA Summer League is going on. Zach Osterman, Indianapolis Star. We've got the Adidas Gauntlet getting underway today in Birmingham, Alabama. The Peach Jam started yesterday, but Zach is going to be covering the Adidas Gauntlet. We will be talking to him as well. Stay tuned. We got plenty more coming up here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, joined now by our good friend Stu Jackson from Indiana Rivals. Stu, how are you, man?
Jim, I'm doing great this morning. How about you?
Good, good. How'd your summer going? I saw you were on vacation out to Colorado not too long ago. Man, it looked beautiful. It looked like a fun trip.
Yeah, it was great. With the way that the season and the recruiting cycle works, there really isn't too much of an off season. So try to get into vacation whenever I can find that window, and usually it happens to fall around the 4th of July. And yeah, I had a great time. Did a lot of hiking and kayaking and enjoying the great outdoors overall. So it was a great time.
Yeah, not a lot of break. Obviously, we've got a lot of things started kicking off today. The Peach Jam starts today. The Adidas Gauntlet tomorrow. We've got IU football media days next week. Not long after that, the football season starts. Because I mentioned earlier, we can literally say right now that the football season kicks off next month, and that seems crazy to me.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It almost seems like one of the shortest off seasons I can remember. With local media day coming up pretty soon in early August, and then of course, like you mentioned, Big Ten media day next week, and everything else that's going on. It's crazy how fast it's come up here. But I think a lot of readers and fans, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners as well, are ready for football season to start and to learn more about what's at stake here for the program in 2019.
Absolutely. I think it's an exciting time. They sure seem to have a lot of pieces and parts in place to have a successful season. We'll find out as they kick off things on the 31st at the Lucas Oil against the Ball State. But right now, it's about basketball and the AAU circuit coming to a head right now as the Peach Jam starts today down in North Augusta, South Carolina. The Adidas Gauntlet tomorrow. But I think most of the IU targets are down in the Adidas run. Is that true?
Yeah, there's going to be a fairly even contingent. I think it'll be pretty evenly split. But as I'm sure you and most of your listeners are aware, if you've been listening to the show or following any number of IU reporters, the big names to know for Adidas will be Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway, kids in the 2020 class, and then of course you've got in 2021, Caleb First and Christian Lander, who are both playing with Spiece Indy Heat and will be down at Peach Jam for the Nike event. So there's obviously more names than that, but that's kind of the who everybody's been focusing on this summer primarily, among many other names.
Stu, with the changes brought on by the NCAA, what have you seen as far as differences this year versus last year on the recruiting circuit for the coaches?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just how the I guess I'd say how the evaluation periods have been scheduled or set up rather. And so in the past, we've had there's been a couple of evaluation periods in the spring, in April, that is. Then you have, a couple in July at least. And, this year they had one in June, I guess as a means of, for not having the second spring evaluation period. But, one thing that's different this summer is they've only got one evaluation period for non-scholastic events. So what that means is this week is going to be the only evaluation period where college coaches can attend Nike or Adidas or Under Armour type of sponsored events. In the past, in late July, Las Vegas has been a massive evaluation period and event because there's so many different tournaments going on, and anytime I've been there, it feels like every college coach under the sun is out there, watching kids play, but they won't be able to attend in person this year because of changes the NCAA made to the recruiting calendar. Now, there's still an evaluation period that week, but July 23rd through the 28th is going to be strictly for scholastic events. So the regional camps that the NCAA came up with, the ones that are in Champaign and Houston, and I'm missing a couple other locations, but it's 4 different regional camps split out geographically. But point being, it's spread out, but it's also a lot different, and I don't know that it's necessarily different for the better, but kind of reserving judgment on that until I actually get to either one of these regional camps or head out to Las Vegas and see what it's like without the college coaches there. Still figuring that out.
Yeah, is it too soon, as far as I know, to make a judgment yourself? You just said that, but have you heard any from coaches and the participants and whatnot? Have you heard any conversations about what the thought is right now on whether it is as good, worse, better, anything of the nature?
Yeah, I think it's still a little bit early to tell. I will say it was probably a lot easier to manage when you had the old format, as far as just letting coaches be able to attend the non-scholastic events and not having to worry about, or not having AU coaches having to worry about trying to convince kids like, hey, you need to play with us and not, go to this regional camp and that sort of thing. So, I would say the biggest difference is just going to be, the talent discrepancy. That's not to say the kids who get invited to regional camps aren't good players and that sort of thing, but it's just a different competition level when you're playing at these shoe circuit events or when you're playing in Vegas and things like that, and you typically get more out of it. So, but again, I mean, until I learn and hear and see more, I won't judge too much on that whole setup and what all that entails and how it turns out.
Obviously, Indiana is down a coach right now. One of the things that Archie's out recruiting, in addition to players, is a new coach. Everyone's wondering who's that going to be and what his qualifications are going to be. Is he going to be an IU guy, blah, blah. And obviously, the only thing that matters is if he's the right guy. Is it hurting Indiana at all to beat down that guy right now during this period of basketball?
I think maybe just a little bit. While it's a hire that you certainly don't want to rush, and I can understand that because, again, it doesn't seem like all too long ago that that change was made. It's a hire that you want to make sure you get right. It would be ideal, I think, to have the assistant coach in place for this evaluation period. Again, considering just how I feel about what I believe the potential talent discrepancies will be at some of these scholastic events versus the non-scholastic events. So, it's just one of those things where it very much looks like Archie Miller and the rest of the staff and the program are going to take their time finding the right guy to fill the spot vacated by former assistant Ed Schilling. So we'll see what happens. Bill Comar, who's the director of basketball operations, he's going to be out and about this week and kind of temporarily fill those roles and duties until they get that hired. That was something that he also did during the evaluation period in late June as well. So they have a plan in place as far as just making sure that they're covering all of their bases and that sort of thing. It would be nice to have that hire filled right now, but at the same time, you can also understand why they'd want to take their time and make sure they get it right.
And a big thing is it seems like the recruiting is set for this season. They have the 2 open spots, but not expecting a lot to change there. So everything else is going forward. Archie has done a good job of himself going out and being the guy that's kind of recruiting Indiana. And he's done a decent job there, bringing in, of course, the last 2 Mr. Basketballs. Nationally is where IU has fallen off a little bit. But, of course, that's not just the recruiting side. That's Indiana itself has fallen off as far as being a national brand somewhat. So that's been a difficult thing, but that's where obviously the recruiting needs to pick up, and whoever he hires is more than likely going to be someone who has a national flavor.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the one thing I thought our national analyst, Eric Bossi, made a great point in the 3-point play article he wrote for this week. He brought up Indiana as one of the programs to watch this week because, and one of the things that's helpful for Archie at least is that there's no like go to or like highly sought after in-state kid that he has to go out after like a Romeo Langford. That's not in any way me trying to disrespect Trey Galloway and Anthony Wheeler, who are very talented players in their own right and represent the state very well. But there's no, national top 5, top 10 kid that, there's an immense amount of pressure to recruit. So I think that helps in a way because he can focus more on some of the, other guys that are targeting nationally, like, like Caleb Love, for example, the point guard from national top 40 point guard from Christian Brothers in St. Louis. So it's a very interesting situation, and I'm sure that fans would love to get a commitment sooner rather than later or see a commitment pop up, but it's just one of those things that it's going to take some time, and for Indiana, I think it just winning with any program, whether it's basketball or football, winning and making deep runs in the NCAA tournament, that kind of exposure is what helps your program recruit on a national level, and that's just what Indiana's going to need to see more of in order to be a bigger player in some of those national recruitments, like you mentioned.
And a lot of times in situations like this, you'll see names start to come out and about, and there have been a couple lists thrown out. But to me, those lists have kind of just been common sense lists, names that are just taken from a common sense standpoint. I think people like Pat Holmes at La Lemure or Keurig, who used to coach with Archie. But I haven't really heard anything substantial as far as potentials to fill that role. Have you?
Yeah, nothing definitive on my end either. This is something that is very much being played close to the vest, I think, which, knowing how, Archie and his staff and then the program as a whole operate, that's not entirely surprising. So, you would think that you would hope the hire would be in place, like we kind of talked about before, prior to the final evaluation period in July. But if not, then, I'm sure they would have another contingency plan in place just in case. And then by the same token, it would give them a little bit more time to make sure they get the hire right before practices start back up sometime in September.
And I mentioned earlier, there's a faction of the fan base, of course, that would always like to see an IU guy in there, quote unquote, whatever that means. But at this stage, obviously, I think if you look around the country at teams, their best recruiter, their new fresh recruiter, they usually don't have it. It's just whoever is doing a great job. And again, getting the right guy for the job is what's more important to Archie and to the staff and the program, I think. So where they come from, to me, does not really matter, is what they can do and what they can bring to the program. And I think that with that, Indiana being a program that may not be having the success right now that they have had in so many years past, I think it is a program because that it can get there very quickly with the right changes and the right additions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, it's the discussion on whether or not it should be an Indiana guy is really interesting because, I'm sure that people would love to have somebody like that make a homecoming of sorts, but at the same time, you want to make sure it's the absolute right hire, somebody who has, like you mentioned, the recruiting chops and things like that, and fits the bill as far as what meets the current needs of the staff, and so. If that happens to be an Indiana guy, terrific. But at the same time, the last thing you want to do, in my opinion at least, is hire an Indiana guy, and then for whatever reason it doesn't work out, or you find out it's not as good of a fit as you realized, and suddenly that that relationship is a little bit awkward. So we'll see what happens. It's either way, there's obviously a lot of interest, and there will continue to be a lot of speculation, I imagine, as far as who ends up being the hire and things like that.
Switching gears to football a little bit, big doings next week up in Chicago. The Big Ten Football Media Days gets underway. Indiana will be speaking on day one on Thursday. But Indiana has got a lot of great parts and pieces coming back this year. A little bit of pressure is going to be on Tom Allen, to not a little bit, but actually I think that they have to reach a bowl this year for his seat not to get hot.
Yeah, I mean, I respectfully disagree. I mean, I don't think I don't think it'll put so much pressure that he'll be on the hot seat. Just because you look at the way he's recruiting and the talent he's bringing in, and I think that will give him plenty of time, or at least take some of the pressure off. What I will say though is that you're absolutely right about needing to make a bowl game, because the part of what will allow this program to take that next step is to continually improve upon, or bring in more talent, and at least from my perspective, bring in those higher ranked class. I know that's the stars and things like that aren't things that coaches and programs pay all that much attention to. So that's why I'm saying from my perspective, but you need to get to those bowl games to give your program exposure and show kids that they can get this exposure and get this additional exposure as far as playing in front of NFL scouts and those sorts of things. And it's also just, everybody who, plays college football wants to play in that kind of environment where, you're playing meaningful football in December or January, and you're playing winning football in the regular season. So, in that regard, it is certainly a year where I think a bowl game is an absolute must.
And, well, the good thing is I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think Indiana gets to a bowl game this year. They've just got a lot of great parts and pieces coming in, made some personnel changes that I think will be enough at least to get them headed in that right direction, because, as you mentioned, the recruiting job that Tom Allen and his staff has done has been absolutely phenomenal. It's just been a great job done by a guy that came in under a lot of question marks for having not been a head coach before. But, man, the job he's done recruiting, Stu, it's nothing short of amazing for a program that doesn't have a good history of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a credit to, Coach Allen being very forward thinking, I would say, just because I remember when I sat down with him one-on-one in May, and I was asking him, about just the changes he's made, with on-campus recruiting and the department as a whole and what that's looked like. And I was amazed when he told me that prior to his arrival, they did not have a director of on-campus recruiting. That included his first year as defensive coordinators. So in that regard, he went out and hired that person, and then he also made some other changes where, like, they have to hire full-time people to give tours of campus and go through the academic parts of things and all that. Because they used to have student interns do that before, but the NCAA got rid of that. And so just all these different things. It was really fascinating to, hear all about all of those changes. But long way of saying that it's something that he's very conscious about, and he's constantly examining, trying to figure out what can we do to sell Indiana as best as we possibly can, and attract the type of talent that we want to attract.
Stu, are you working on anything for the Hoosier.com?
Right now, I'm just focused on getting all my content submitted for this year's basketball preview magazine. It's a little bit of a slower time of the year, really just, around the time when, watch lists are getting close to coming out. We're getting close to the start of fall camp for football, but outside of, being in John Sauber from our site will be in Birmingham for the Adidas Summer Championships. But other than that, it's just waiting for media day for both Big Ten and locally for IU football, and then just finishing up the last of basketball recruiting here before we return to the more team focused side of coverage here this fall. So it's a slower time, but it's going to be picking up pretty soon, especially as we get closer to Labor Day weekend, when we're aiming to get our magazine off to the printer.
He's Stu Jackson. You can find him at thehoosier.com, a part of the Rivals Network. Stu, thank you, brother. Look forward to it as always. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Stu Jackson from thehoosier.com, part of the Indiana Rivals Network, joins us here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat. Stay tuned. We're back right after this.
It's only teenage wasting. Sally, take my hand.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
The truth again is high to keep you satisfied. True love I now exist is the love I came
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Great time to play golf, man. It's not raining. Although, man, oh man, did we have a thunderstorm last night. That was one of the loudest I think I've ever heard. There was no sleeping through that, man. But welcome back. Hope your week's gone very well. Great program today. Got Agnes from The Athletic to join us in the next hour. From Las Vegas, the NBA Summer League's going on. Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star. He's down. We've got the Adidas Gauntlet going on. The Peach Jam started yesterday. It's a lot to get to. Tomorrow on the program, Ken Bykoff from Peaks will join us. Todd Leary, as always, as well. Also, I think we will get to talk to John Sauber from Rivals. So, great way to finish up the Friday. Had the opportunity to meet with some of IU's freshman football players yesterday. We'll have some of that at the top of the hour as well. Cameron Williams, man, he's a specimen. This dude is a linebacker, but he's a little more. I don't want to say athletic because they're all athletic, but there's just something about him. He's long. He's got length. He's got crazy speed. But the one common thread that has the time we've been able to meet with these guys, it's astounding to me. They are all bought in. They are all on the same page. They are all working towards a common goal. Kind of gives you an understanding of why Tom Allen is able to be so successful recruiting these guys, because they're buying what he's selling, and he means what he's selling. Now, he's got to back it up, but he certainly means it. But that's a big part of it. Having all those guys bought in on the same page, working towards the same goal, working as a team, I think it's going to provide beneficial dividends for this football team this year. I was high on them last year, but this is a better team. So I'm going to be high on them again. Their schedule was set up a lot better last year for wins. They didn't take advantage of it, but ironically, it's tougher. A tougher schedule this year. I think they're going to do better. I can see 7 wins. I know it sounds crazy with their schedule. That means they've got to upset somebody that's a pretty good upset. I'm not talking about beating Northwestern at home. I'm talking about they've got to go to Nebraska and beat Nebraska, or they've got to beat a Michigan at home, or they've got to go to West Lafayette and win to do something. I think that they can get 7 wins. I really do. But until we actually see the offense and the defense, it's a guess based on the talent that I know they have. But it's not just the talent. It's again, I'm going back to this. I've never seen a group. They can all toe the company line and all that, and a lot of people do that. But this is coming across very genuine from these guys. They, at least for right now, they are all one, and I think that's going to pay great dividends. Scott Agnes from the Athletics on the program today, like I said, coming up to us from Las Vegas. Look forward to talking to him. He's covering the Pacers. Juwan Morgan's in action. We'll talk about that a little bit. He probably had his best game yet. The last game I saw him play, 7 points, 6 rebounds. They've only lost 1 game, the Jazz out there. So a tournament play will be starting sometime soon. So we'll see how they do there. But we're also going to be hearing from Williams in the next hour. Zach Osterman, of course, at the Gauntlet, the Adidas Gauntlet. So that's going to a whole lot. I was talking about Bob Knight earlier. He's moving back. And a couple of the publication that broke the story, the Herald, published not the exact address, but down to the block. And I don't understand that. I'm not getting that as a necessity part of the story. And I don't understand the reason for it. I guess their defense is going to be, well, we found it. Anybody can find it. I get that. And that is true. And I'm going to give you that. But the deal is 99% of the readers would not have gone out seeking that information. Now, I know some would have. There's no doubt. But that's the thing. instead of having just some few tricklers, probably going to have an abundance now. And it just bothers me. I think that is really, it's not clickbait because it's in a newspaper, but to me, it's just unnecessary. I think that it was I think you have to look at the circumstance. The fact that there's no one that casts a taller shadow in this town, possibly in the state still, than Bob Knight. But this is not the Bob Knight of old. This is the Bob Knight who is elderly. He's 80. He's nearly 80 years old. He's having some health issues. Now, not like he can't communicate with people. Whenever I've seen him, he's been out and about and enjoying. But I just don't see. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want a parade of people coming up to the door. Pretty sure about that, but oh well. That's an issue that's sailed. That ship sailed. It's out there, so it is what it is. But that's certainly my opinion on that. Hey, coming up in the next hour, got more to talk about. I talked yesterday those top 3 recruits in that 2021 class that are in the top 36. 9 of the top 150 of the 2021 class from Indiana. That's how strong that class is. These guys are all down playing at either the Peach Jam in North Augusta, South Carolina, or they're down in Birmingham/Hoover, Alabama, playing in the Adidas Gauntlet. A lot of guys are in different places. Today we'll get a report from Zach Osterman. Tomorrow we'll talk to John Sauber from Rivals, who will also be down at the Gauntlet. And at least we'll have a day of play when we talk to him. So looking forward to that as well. Did you see the ESPYs last night, Jake?
I did not. I was playing basketball.
Man, you cannot contribute to this then. You cannot. Oh, Victor Oladipo Fantasy Camp's coming back, or it's coming for the first time. Just go to the IU web. It's probably listed under IU athletic camps or sports camps, whatever that stuff is. But that's not like a $125 camp. What was the cost on that? Like $4,000 and $6,000?
I think it was a little bit cheaper than that. I thought it was closer to around $2,000. But either way,
no, I'm pretty sure it's not. I think it's $4,000 and $6,000. There's like a upper, but just go for sure. You can find that out on, but it's kind of pricey. It's for the big boys, but you get to play in the world-renowned Simon Scott Assembly Hall and do all the things that a player or coach would do. But that's something new that they're doing. So we'll see how that turns out. IU baseball, 2 more transfers, guys that didn't play last year, but we'll talk about that in the next hour too. But one of the pitchers, man, pretty good. Both of them look like pretty good prospects. There has been an abundance of players gone, a majority of them through the Major League Draft. 10 guys were drafted. I think 2 of those are coming back. But, man, they've lost a lot of guys. There's been at least 4 transfers that I'm aware of, and I think there's actually more. There's some great guys that were gray-shirted that are transferring out as well. But, hey, we've got a lot more coming up on the program. Like I said, Scott Agnes and Zach Osterman in the next hour. We'll hear from Cameron Williams from IU football team as well. Stay tuned. We're coming back with more from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. NDL Sports Beat back right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle, Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Graham. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
We're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along. Well, we flew through.
Welcome along to Indiana Sports Beat. Thanks a lot for joining us, taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. Thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride as we are coming to you from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios in Bloomington. Great day. Get out there and play some golf. Fairways are in excellent shape, by the way. A lot to get to on the program today. Scott Agnes from The Athletic is joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada, site of this year's NBA Summer League, as always. Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star joins us. We're talking Adidas Gauntlet, Birmingham. That's where he'd be. A lot more going on this weekend to get to as well, as we'll keep up with that. Ken Bykoff on tomorrow, Todd Leary on tomorrow, John Sauber on tomorrow. Lots of basketball going on. But today, the Nike Peach Jam started yesterday. The Adidas Gauntlet starts today. So all kinds of stuff going on. The NBA is Summer League, like I said, going on out in Las Vegas. Tons of things happening. Bob Knight is moving back to Bloomington, apparently. Been rumored for some time. As a matter of fact, since he came back to the baseball game back in early April at Bart Kaufman Field, rumors started swirling that he was potentially looking at places to maybe move back here, and we just left it alone and figured it would happen when it happens, and it did. And it was reported by the Bloomington Herald first, I believe, and I want to give them credit for doing that. Great job breaking that story. They dug in and got property records and found one signed by Robert M. Knight. I'm sure that's Montgomery, according to Dickie V. But the thing is, they posted everything but the exact address. They published the neighborhood, the block that he lives on, that he would be living on. So now that information could be ascertained by the common person who put the effort in, no doubt. So let's make that known. But guess what? I'm guessing 95, 99% of the readers were not going to go do that. They were not going to go through the trouble of going to the courthouse and digging through court records and getting that stuff to find that out. A couple would have, no doubt, and you would have had that, but not the thousands upon thousands of people that have now read that. Why? What was the point of that? What did that add to the story? What did that give the story that it didn't already have? How did it make the story better? Is what my question is. I think it's a piss poor decision, if you ask me. If people want to go to that trouble, do it. Let them do that. Let them do that. Do not. Now you are party to causing a circus. This is a guy who cast the biggest shadow in this state. He's nearly 80 years old. He's in declining health. The last thing that I'm sure he needs is a parade of people before he even gets there. I've been on Bob Knight as much as anybody about his behavior and whatnot. That's not relevant to this. To me, you got to use a little common sense. I just think it was just a bad journalistic decision to do that. That's just my opinion, and I could be way off, and I'm sure a lot of people disagree, and that's cool. I get it. Just my thoughts on that. Not a fan of that. Yesterday, I talked about the state of Indiana having 3 players in the 2021 class in the top 36 in the country. Well, it's even better than that. I mean, you get past those first 3, which is the top player in the state, of course, is Christian Lander from Evansville Rights. He's, I think, ranked 18th right now. But far and away, he is the leading player. But Trey Kaufman from Silver Creek jumped up like 31 spots. He's now the second highest rated player in the state of Indiana. Caleb First follows behind him. Then you have 6 more in the top 50. Peegs.com did a great job of breaking that down yesterday. A name that is really starting to stick out, Blake Wesley. He's the first guy after that top 3. He's number 86 in the state. He's a 6'3". He's a big-time shooter, and his game is getting better and better, apparently. He just has offers from Butler and 3 MAC offers. One of those is Ball State. I think that this dude's going to explode. Another one is Luke Goody. I mean, I'm skipping some of the guys, but Luke Goody, who is playing down at the Nike Peach Jam, along with plenty others. RJ Davis, Matt Cross, Hassan Diarra, Caleb First is down there. Kamari Lands, Kyron Powell. Those are just guys down at the Nike Peach Jam. But some interesting stuff about Luke Goody, and I think he's grown. I think he got measured at like 6'. I think I saw him that he was measured at 6'6" yesterday without shoes, which basically makes him 6'7" on the court. But he's the son of 2 IU guards, and his uncle is Trent Green. Of course, Trent Green quarterback is showing dirt. The Los Angeles Rams before actually he was never in Los Angeles. He was in St. Louis the whole time. When they moved to St. Louis, they used to be my team. When they moved to St. Louis, it made me so mad. I kind of stopped following him. I followed Trent Green, but we were kind of in school at the same time. But yeah, that's a great pedigree. I saw him play the team camps. He's a solid athlete, and now getting bigger and bigger, man, his game's going to jump up there. No doubt. No doubt. On the program, like I said, Scott Agnes is going to join us from Las Vegas. Zach Osterman as well. The ESPYs were last night. If you got a chance to watch that, Tracy Morgan posted it. The U.S. women's national team, they did something in New York. I forget what they were doing. They had to take a flight, flew on, got to L.A., took a bus. They were tracking them. They made it there to get on stage just in time. So, hey, the Victor Oladipo fantasy camp's coming up as well. So if you got a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 you want to spend, you can be the man. You can be the man. Also, yesterday we had the opportunity to meet with some more football players, some of the freshmen. Ivory Winters, Cameron Williams, various guys. But Cameron Williams is a linebacker that I think he could be special. Forget the attitude, which is unbelievably great. All these guys are bought in. But they all have one common thread, one common goal, getting better, getting the team better, making Indiana well-known, putting Indiana on the map in football. It's great to hear that. It'll be good to see if that's still there after 8 weeks of getting pounded as a freshman, but there's no doubt that it will be. But we had the opportunity to talk to Cameron. Do you have that, Jake, or do you need me to do it? Cameron Williams, very well-spoken young man, another one of the great freshmen brought in by Tom Allen. Let's hear what the young man had to say.
Coming in early, it can be a shock to quite a few freshmen around the country, like anytime, anywhere. So coming into a D1 program, especially with a big name like IU, I look to change the culture around completely. Like I'm trying to come here. My class has a whole new, we call it the new wave for a reason. So I look to, prove that name. I'm trying to get everybody back on board and hop on IU train, become a Hoosier. You know what I'm saying? So I just try every day to remember why I'm here. I'm trying to get everybody motivated here, and I'm trying to make sure that IU make a statement this year.
The new wave, make a statement, become a Hoosier. They're all about it. He's from the region now. That makes Ken Bykoff happy. But Andrean, what a bunch of success they've had here of late. You can call it Dan Dockett you. I call it Ken Bykoff you. But yeah, the region has been producing here of late, man. Andrean especially has had a run. They were in the baseball state championships last year, or maybe it was the year before last, I mean to say. But basketball, they've just had a great run here of late. But this dude's a special. I think he's going to be a special athlete. He is big, strong, lean, long, and can run. He's a great track athlete. So this is the kind of players that Tom Allen's been talking about of building depth, of getting these kinds of guys in that second and that third spot that are coming up. That's the difference between an Indiana and Ohio State or Penn State. They're 3 deep. Indiana's kind of 2 deep. I don't know that they're. You can probably say they're 2 deep at about every position. They're not. I don't know that they're 3 deep in every position, but they're getting there. They are at some places. They are at quarterback. They are at running back. They're doing pretty well at receiver. We'll see how the line does this year. Big question mark. Of course, it's going to be the linchpin of how this offense goes for Cameron DeBoer, the new offensive coordinator. Looking forward to it. Lots more coming up here on the program today. Scott Agnes from the Athletics going to join us next from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
Way down Egypt's land, make my people bound for promised land.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. And now, as promised, joined by our good friend Scott Agnes from Las Vegas. Scott, how's it going, man?
Good morning, Jim. Yeah, it's going. That's for one thing. So much activity out here. It's a flurry of activity, and almost everywhere you go, Jim, it's wild about the just as you called here, Joe Lake of the owners of the Warriors walk past. So you never know who you might run into here in Las Vegas.
And that's the truth. I mean, it's crazy. Not even just with involving the NBA. I mean, there are celebrities that pop in. You never know who you're going to see. Maybe Wayne Newton. You never know.
No, that's true as well. And right now, just the basketball capital of the world right now is Las Vegas, as you have executives, players, coaches, teams. And then what's really been cool out here is we've seen so many guys on the current roster come out to support their summer league team. And so that's been neat to see. For instance, with the Pacers, we had two games a couple days ago. You had Victor Oladipo courtside along with Malcolm Brogdon and T.J. Warren, two newcomers, and former Pacer David West was right there. So it's good to catch up with him.
Yeah, I noticed that Eric Gordon was out there with the Houston Rockets. You know, there are a lot of mentions of him, possible trade rumors early on. That stuff's behind him now. But just you see a lot of those guys out there supporting their teams.
Yeah, and that's especially so the case with the Western Conference teams, right? It's an easy, quick trip from Los Angeles, Phoenix, et cetera, Golden State as well. And, I mean, the first 2 days of this event were sold out mainly because of Zion hysteria. Now, of course, Zion was at he hasn't played beyond the first game, probably planned absence, quite honestly. But then last night, of course, we saw him at the ESPY. So he is having a good time as a 19-year-old, I can tell you that.
Yeah, can you imagine that? He's got people like Drew Brees saying, hey, my kids want to meet you, and just nuts. Like, can you imagine being a 19-year-old kid, being out there amongst your peers, first of all, or I mean, not just your peers, your heroes, and then your heroes from other sports, from all walks of life. It's crazy. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's there. It's nuts.
No, it really is, yeah. And Zion's been a sensation, especially over the last year, and he's one of the first guys that was really part of the YouTube growth and players, right? We were watching him and as a 16, 17-year-old dunking in AAU basketball. Then we've watched him this last year in Duke. That's the new age type of players. We're well aware of these guys to college, and it doesn't matter where they're playing across the country.
Out there in Sin City, getting any gambling in?
Yeah, just a little bit. A little blackjack. I always like to stop by a craps table, see if it's hot or not. But mostly it's been days and days at the gym, taking me back to those AAU days, right, where maybe you get to a gym at 11 a.m. and you're there till 8 p.m. So it's been long but fun days here in Las Vegas. But I'm be ready to come home here shortly.
Did you have a flower vase or anything like that in the room you stayed in?
No, I did not.
Well, I thought you'd say yes, but I was going to say, well, I probably paid for that because that's what I do. I pay for things when I'm in Las Vegas. I give them money, they take it, and they keep it.
Yeah, no, it's money obviously flows rather quickly out here, and then bills of 100 quite frequently. And everywhere you walk, there's also a lot of those high-end shops in every one of these resorts. I stay a little bit off the strip on purpose. Otherwise, you never know what kind of trouble you can get into if you have that casino downstairs. Fortunately, I do not.
What's it from a fan standpoint? Where are the fans coming from all over? Is this becoming a destination for NBA fans to come out and see?
Yeah, I really think so. And if anything, this would be my push to NBA fans is, maybe instead of going to that game or in addition to going to your home team's game for the Pacers, let's say, how about like a father-son trip or something like that out to Las Vegas? Be able to spend a couple of days out here at least, maybe a long weekend, watch the games. It's a $35 ticket to get in here, so it's really affordable. And even better than that, Jim, is the fact that ticket gets you into both gyms and the entire day. So you could watch something like 10 games in one day for that price, do that for a couple of days, and easily get your money's worth and have a nice little weekend out here because, yeah, you're watching the next stars of the league before the NBA season gets started in their rookie seasons.
Yeah, it's crazy all that's going on. And we'll talk about the Pacers in a minute, but I noticed Taco Fall has gotten a lot of attention out there, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, especially that first game, it was fascinating. He came off the bench, didn't start, came off the bench, and you would have thought it was Zion checking into the game. I mean, people were out of their seats, standing, giving him a warm ovation before he had even done anything on the court. It's a great story. I mean, and you see him walking around here as well, and it was pretty funny sitting down there in what I want to call the pit of Thomas and Mack Center. It's kind of where the media and the NBA players back there kind of hanging out before games. And, of course, he's standing next to those guys, and he's towering over them by 6 or 8 inches. Just imagine what he would look like standing next to you or me.
Yeah, I saw some clips, man. He looks pretty mobile for a big guy.
No, yeah, he's shown something, and I think he's stating his case right now for a team to give him a look. Absolutely, yeah. He's been an interesting case, and I know many on the Celtics are saying, hey, why not? Maybe you should add him to your 15-man active roster.
We'll see about that. How are the Pacers looking?
Not good at all. Not good at all, Jim.
Let's don't sugarcoat it.
It is a bad team. I am not going to sugarcoat it. In this past game, 2 days ago, the Pacers didn't even suit up many of their key guys, right? So we're still waiting on Goga watch, I think, like we talked about last week. So Goga, and that's a full story I wrote on The Athletic that you can check out, is exactly what is keeping him off the court. And it's not an issue or something that's been delayed. It's just waiting for that timing and for him to get his work visa so he's able to come over here. And he's 90% of the way done. He's waiting on that interview process at the U.S. Embassy there over at the Republic of Georgia. So that's why we haven't been able to see him. Aaron Holiday showed a few flashes in the first couple of games, but then elected to sit out. Alize Johnson has played, and then Edmund Sumner just received a 3-year contract. He's dealing with some pain in his foot that just kind of popped up a couple weeks ago. Had the trainers take a look, and it's something they're going to be overly cautious with because he's a guy that's battled injuries, even going back to his college days at Xavier, where he had tore his ACL in a knee, had 2 shoulder surgeries, battled knee soreness at this time last year at Summer League, and so it's something they're having to be careful with. But no, this team, the Summer Pacers, they're not very good. The most interesting thing has been what's happened surrounding the court and outside the court with the Pacers, especially as there's at least 4 Pacers I know of that have been here, and talking about Victor Oladipo, Malcolm Brogdon, T.J. Warren, and T.J. McConnell, who has not quite signed his deal. I know he's already wearing Pacers gear, so he's ready to join the roster. Just a formality here coming up.
Now, is it a travel visa that he's waiting on to be approved?
Yeah. Goga Bitadze does not have his work visa just yet as of this conversation. So, and there's actually a specific one for professional athletes I've learned. It's called the P1 visa, something very specific. And what's different about his case, Jim, is that he has spent the majority of his time overseas. While he's been a pro since he was 14, he has not been in the United States, whereas let's take another foreign player that was drafted and is already playing. That's because one of 2 things. 1, he's already been playing college basketball, or 2, maybe he'd been over in the United States for at least 90 days. And if you did that, then you have a different type of work visa that he's able to then transfer over to the specific P1 visa. And that's why other foreign players have been able to play in Summer League, whereas Goga has unable to sign his deal or work until that has been completed.
Not to pick on things, you'd think that they'd have thought ahead and had that done in advance.
Well, I'll tell you what, they did it as much as they could, in fact. As people, you can see that I wrote in that story what the Pacers did, even leading up to the draft. They informed their internal lawyer, possible foreign guys, different countries they might take. So if they needed to jump on it, that same lawyer, Frank Polisi, was in the draft room. So when they made the call on Goga, he went to work. And one of the complications that they had in terms of submitting things in the early going was, well, with the NBA free agency starting July 1, you don't have the final numbers of what a rookie scale contract will be until maybe a couple days beforehand. And so for the forms, they had to specifically, as they submit documents, such as details of the job, what's he going to do, and what's he going to make, they had to wait until they could really have those final numbers to provide that correct evidence. And I can tell you, so they submitted that form, and then 2 days later, they got a response he had been approved. Then Goga, what happened was he then went online, and it's not like you could do this 2 months in advance. You had to wait until you had all of this done, which couldn't be done until after the process. So then Goga went online, submitted a form. Again, the Pacers expedited with their government contacts, and so instead of a meeting with the U.S. Embassy, I think it was July 17th originally scheduled, he's going to get it done this week.
Crazy what they got to go through, but looking forward to seeing him in action, man. Hopefully he gets it over there. But will he make it in time to play?
I was going to say, and it's a thing that even I had to learn about, Jim, in all this process. I didn't realize all the things that's required and maybe why it was why it turned out as it has and he's not here. But yes, once he gets that interview completed and he is finally approved, then he can hop on that first flight here out in Las Vegas. But I'll be honest, right now the time's getting thin. Pacers do play today, but then after that it becomes tournament play with up to 4 more games, but it could just be 1 more. And quite honestly, the way they've been playing, it's probably only 1 more game. So I would say at this point, Jim, it's highly unlikely that he'll be ready to go because they have to also factor in maybe he needs a day to not do anything after what could be something like a 24-hour travel day, right? And you do not want to put a player player's health in jeopardy, for just a summer league game. It is just not that big of a deal.
Yeah, then you got to jump on to a team that you've not even met before, and probably very, very difficult to make it all happen. But we'll see him soon enough, I guess. But it would have been nice to get a good look at him.
Yeah, there was hope that he would have gotten that interview completed on Monday, would be able to fly out Tuesday and play here Thursday. But that has not been the case. So, like I was saying, all indications are that he will not be playing in Summer League.
Crazy. Anything that's jumped out? Who are some of the guys that have kind of jumped out and made a mark that you did maybe not expected from?
Well, mainly my attention has been on the Pacers, so I can't give a great evaluation to say all the other teams that have been playing. But on the Pacers, it really has not been pretty. Seen a little bit of flashes from Aaron Holiday and Alize Johnson, but it's tough, like you were just indicating with Goga even. It's tough when you bring a group together for less than a week and expect them to go produce on the court. So there's clearly been a lack of chemistry with that roster. So the one thing that I have enjoyed in this process is seeing the head coach of the Mad Ants, Steve Gansey, take charge for the first couple of games, and then including tonight's game, Tim Dather, who was a manager at Indiana and is the head video coordinator for the Pacers. He not only coached the Summer League squad on Tuesday, but he'll also be coaching them this afternoon.
Very cool. As far as, is there anybody on the team that is expected to get a contract?
No, not at all. There is one guy, Brian Bowen, the second. Of course, we all know his story where he got caught up a little bit in that Louisville deal, went overseas this past year playing for the Sydney Kings in Australia, and has since been signed to a 2-way contract with the Pacers, which guarantees him at least a minimum of basically $75,000. But he's on the same type of deal that Edmund Sumner had been on, where he can bounce back between the Mad Ants and the Pacers. But thus far, from what I've seen, he's nowhere close to an NBA level, and probably will spend the majority of the year, Jim, in Fort Wayne with Steve Gansey, the Mad Ants head coach.
Adidas pays more.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Too soon? Too soon?
Not at all. It's reality.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see how that works out. And I know you don't get a chance to watch a lot of the other teams unless they're playing the Pacers because you're there to do a job. Juwan Morgan over there playing with the Jazz hadn't had a lot of action he's played, but yeah, he has probably his best game the other day. 7 points in 17 minutes, 6 rebounds. Pretty good outing for him.
Yeah, he's got to show that he'll be able to do the dirty work. We'll get teammates involved. We'll dive after every single ball. We'll maybe be good in a pick and roll set and do the smart things out there. That's the type of player that, for him to be successful and have a chance in the NBA, that he's got to continue to impose on other players.
You know, and it's funny, all the guys that are out there, there's a ton of, like 16, 17 guys on a team, but the percentage of guys that are out there that are expected to actually be on a roster, was it like 1% maybe?
Yeah, it's not very good. I would say on average there's probably 2 or 3 NBA guys on every team, because you're generally talking about the first-round pick or 2 the last couple of years, maybe a second-round pick. The Pacers, for example, have 5 guys, if you include Bowen and all that, of guys that will go into training camp with the Pacers. But yeah, it's slim pickings, and so that's the one thing these guys, the director of player personnel and head coaches, stress to their teams is don't think you're playing for us. Don't think you're playing necessarily for you. You're playing for every other team, not just here at this event. And you also have 2 foreign teams that are involved, so it's 32 teams in total because China and Croatia are playing. But I can tell you there are a lot of representatives from overseas teams here, meeting with guys in coffee shops, talking to them at the gym, this is a big area for them to recruit their next big star, because over there, a guy here might be their first or second best player on the roster.
I know you just had a story come out and you're traveling now, but anything that you're working on that's in the pipeline people need to know about?
Yeah, so at a game this week, I was able to talk to the Pacers newcomer TJ Warren. His mentor, David West, was sitting right beside him. And TJ Warren's former assistant coach, Nate McMillan's son, Jamel, was an assistant in Phoenix with TJ. So I got pretty good insight from all of them about the type of player TJ is and will be able to contribute to the Pacers. And basically what you can expect is he is a guy that is going to contribute a lot on the offensive end, can really go off for a burst of 20, 25 points, but still has areas for him to grow defensively. But offensively, he can be quite the weapon, and he was really looking forward to being in a winning situation and not playing for the lottery each year like he has been in Phoenix.
If you want Pacers coverage, it's Scott Agnes with The Athletic. Scott, I can't thank you enough. Safe travels back from Las Vegas, man.
Thank you. I'm glad to make it out here alive, right?
Yeah.
Good to be on with you, Jim.
Yeah, you got to get home to get some rest.
Exactly.
That's how
no
you
kidding there.
Yeah, you go on vacation to Vegas, you got to get home to get some rest. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to go to Vegas for vacation. I mean, you keep yourself occupied, whether it's walking, the food opportunities, if there's gambling, if that's a route you like to go, maybe poolside. There's a little bit of everything for people out here. The one thing I haven't done, Jim, is a buffet. Have you? Never done it myself.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Bally's seafood buffet. Killing on the crab legs, man.
Oh, okay. I'll add that for next year's to-do list.
All right, brother. Scott Agnes, I can't thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet. Scott Agnes from The Athletic. Make sure you check him out right there. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. We'll be back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. for your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle with you as always, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Now joined by our friend of the show, Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Stars. Zach, how are you, sir?
Pretty good, Jim. How about you?
Good, man. How's your summer been going?
Well, it's been, it's been the right amount of busy. So a little bit of relaxation, a little bit of keeping the fire burning on, the IU beat.
Well, that doesn't take much now because you're back at it. A lot going on in basketball. You've got the Nike Peach Jam, of course, going on down at South Carolina and in Alabama, the Adidas Gauntlet, where you were going to be covering a lot of guys at both places or Indiana targets are both going on right now.
Yeah, and I'll be, as you said, I'll be a Gauntlet, but I mean, it's with the way that the recruiting schedule has been kind of condensed here in July. There's just the one evaluation weekend, and then there's the NCAA academies, I guess, later in the month, and it's still sort of a mystery what that's going to look like from a recruiting perspective, but I think it'll be kind of interesting to see how that shakes out. But I mean, this is going to be kind of a sprint this weekend for everybody around college basketball. If there's one advantage potentially, it's that obviously, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of coaches will be flying, but South Augusta, South Carolina is only about 2 hours from Atlanta. There's an Under Armour event in Atlanta, in suburban Atlanta, and then Atlanta is only about 4 hours from Birmingham, and all that's by car. So if you're hopping on a plane, you can get from one place to another pretty quickly, frankly, especially if either you can fly private or you fly out of Atlanta, just do everything through Atlanta. You shouldn't be able to, or you shouldn't have too much trouble getting where you need to go. But there's going to be some long hours for everybody in these next 3 or 4 days because this is, you don't get to kind of maybe station yourself in one. You've got to hit as much as you can in as little time as possible.
I'm sure you're flying charter all over the place, right?
Yeah, I'll be camping out in Hoover, Alabama.
Is Archie at a disadvantage right now because he's down a coach and all this stuff is going on?
I don't think so terribly. I mean, the first thing to remember is Indiana can send its director of operations on the road. So if you're down an assistant coach, you can elevate your director of ops. Or I think Indiana could even send Bill Comar, who's it's associate AD or assistant AD and direct sort of connection to the basketball program on the road as a third assistant. So in terms of total manpower, Indiana should be able to have 4 guys on the road, Archie plus 3 on the road this weekend. In terms of where things stand with not having a third assistant kind of full-time installed, and my impression right now is that there's nothing imminent on that. That can obviously change quickly, but as much as I understand, Archie's taking his time. He's not rushing it, and I don't think it's like there's going to be some announcement tomorrow and you're going to see somebody new in an IU polo at Peach Jam on Saturday, and I'm sure now it'll happen that I've predicted that it won't. But I don't think that it's of massive importance because any of these guys that you're recruiting, number one, they're going to have a solid relationship, presumably, with the assistants that are still there, Tom Osterman and Bruiser Flint. And number two, the most important thing is always going to be that relationship with Archie Miller. That's not to say that Indiana doesn't need to prioritize that filling that third assistant spot long term. I think certainly by the time you start to talk about getting your kids back to campus, basically a month for the start of the fall semester, getting into your preseason, really getting geared up for basketball season proper. By that point, you really probably ought to need to have somebody there. But just for this weekend, I think Indiana will be okay. Again, with that third person out on the road, it's just not going to be a full-time guy.
And unfortunate that these events are relatively close. Several are potential targets are kind of evenly split. R.J. Davis, Matt Cross, Caleb First, Luke Goody. Those guys, amongst others, are over at the Peach Jam. But then there's going to be several others down where you're going to be obviously Christian Lander, one of those, I'm assuming. Blake Wesley, is he down there as well?
I'm not sure about him, but obviously Lander will have Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway with him. There's a few other guys that kind of Indiana at both places that Indiana's offered, and maybe it's as much about sort of just checking in and sort of saying, what does the offer mean? What's the relationship like? A guy like Jamin Brakefield, for example, or Jalen Bridges, who I believe is going to be in Birmingham this weekend. His team is anyway, Wildcats Select. Is it one of those where the offer went out, but maybe it hasn't, it's not necessarily advanced the relationship between the player and the program a whole lot, or maybe is it one where, hey, that offer changed some things, and now I'm really looking to build more of a relationship with the coaches in Indiana, and I think I might be taking a visit there in the fall and that sort of thing. I think that's part of that's one of the dynamics of what you find out kind of this weekend and through this month is, a round of offers typically goes out after the spring, and as you kind of get into the summer months, what is that, how does that shake anybody new out that winds up being a real priority come fall?
Talking with Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star. And Zach, Archie has obviously seen these guys a myriad of times. You've seen them a myriad of times. I've seen them. At this point, is this more about just establishing as much of a relationship as you can, or as opposed to trying to find new talent?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. What I always tell people is in my mind anyway, July on its own doesn't matter. What matters is what comes out of July and into August. And with guys you've been recruiting, obviously part of that's important. It's a chance to show them that you're really prioritizing them. A guy like R.J. Davis, who Indiana reportedly went to see at his high school or at some sort of high school event in June. That's one of the new things that coaches can get out to see in the sort of revised recruiting calendar. Guys like Leal and Galloway and Lander, who obviously are priorities, but if you're Indiana, you want to make sure that they see you there and that they recognize that kind of you're following them around and you're still very, very high on their priority list. But I also use a guy like Robert Johnson as an example from Indiana. I think Indiana was aware of Robert Johnson for a while, followed him for a while, but they really didn't pull the trigger on that offer until they saw him in July and they saw him play with Boo Williams and they saw him play so well. And they just thought, yes, this is a guy that we really want. We want to make him a priority. We want to make this happen. And Robert Johnson went from just kind of being a name floating around the edges for Indiana to suddenly being a high priority target coming into the fall. He took a visit. He winds up coming to Indiana, 4-year starter, one of the better three-point shooters Indiana's had in the last few years, scores, 1,300 career points. So the other thing that could come out of July is not necessarily, maybe finding new talent. Obviously, there will be coaches that will discover kids they've never seen before. But I think what you also see is maybe coaches who are looking at guys and saying, am I sure I want just a little bit more? And you can get that in this month. And then all of a sudden, a guy who maybe didn't seem like he was really high on the wish list gets the offer, and things get serious really fast in August and into September and October. And that's why I say, July on its own is not the only thing that's important. It's what kind of comes out of July. And it's a time when both players and programs really sift through and decide who they want to prioritize and who they don't.
There's talent in every class, of course, coming out of Indiana. There's talent in the 2020 class, obviously, with Leland Galloway, amongst others. How important is it for Archie to get these higher profile guys in the 2020 class to set up that vaunted 2021 class?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always important to recruit well. That's the sort of thing that just kind of builds its own momentum. And if you continue to recruit well in state, it's worth pointing out Archie Miller. I mean, it's the easiest thing to say on the day you get hired that we're going to go inside out and we're going to recruit the state and then the region and then so on. But it's worth pointing out basically every kid Archie's signed so far has come either from Indiana or from a state in the Big Ten footprint. And so it's clear that the message is resonating here in the Midwest and that he's able to kind of get guys. You want that to just continue. It's one thing to do it when you have that new coach bounce and there's momentum and you can kind of tell your story of what you want Indiana to look like and your long-term vision. It's another thing to be able to sustain that momentum, and I think that's always important. Now, does that mean that, Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway going to Indiana is suddenly going to lock up Indiana, Christian Lander for Indiana? It usually doesn't work that way. But I think that it's as much as anything about momentum and about making sure that you're maintaining that as much as possible from one class to the next, because then it just gets easier to tell kids, like I said, to tell kids that story as things go on about here's how my long-term vision fits. Here's what it looks like. Here's how you fit into it. This isn't just a thing where I'm here for 3 or 4 years or it's only going to burn bright once. We're here to build something and then sustain it, and we want you to be part of that.
Obviously, they've done a great job recruiting within the borders, as you pointed out. But one of the things that's also been apparent is they haven't had that same success outside of the borders. Is how important is this new coach / recruiter to resolve that issue?
I think that probably depends a lot on what Archie Miller wants. I mean, if he wants somebody that has those ties, and again, we've not really seen Archie go outside the Midwest a lot. It seems like he's doing that a little bit more in this current class, but I don't know if you can necessarily sort of pigeonhole one area he's targeting. You can always look at kind of the prep circuit in New England and how strong between the prep schools and some of the religious schools up in New England and New York, how strong the talent is out of there. Maybe you find an assistant that fits what you want to do that has really strong ties there. Maybe it's somebody who can take you more to the Mid-Atlantic, the DMV, Virginia, Richmond. Obviously, you've got Hargrave and Oak Hill and schools like that down in that area. But I don't know that this is necessarily just a hire only about recruiting. I think that's going to be a big piece of it without question. But I think if you find a guy who's maybe got ties out on the West Coast and also really fits what you want to do, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you find the guy that just really enhances kind of your prospects in the Midwest, again, there's more than enough talent in the Big Ten footprint between Indiana, Chicago, a number of different places in Ohio, kind of up and down I-75, branching out to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and then going up to Minneapolis, where there's a lot of talent right now. Obviously, Indiana fans know that well enough with Race Thompson coming to Bloomington. I think that's fine too. So, listen, I'm not saying this won't be a hire that's driven by recruiting, but I don't know that it's necessarily one where if you're Archie Miller, you're thinking, well, what we really need more than anything else is a foothold in this one specific area of the country. And so we're going to go get a guy that gives us that. I think that what you're maybe looking for more is a guy who fits. And then you look at what he brings, a little bit like talking about a football coach, the way that you hire a football assistant. Look for the right fit. And then when he gets in, you say, okay, what areas does he have the best connections in? Well, now we can prioritize Memphis a little bit more, or Georgia a little bit more, or Texas a little bit more, that kind of thing.
We saw some pictures, Cliff Marshall, strength coach for IU basketball, working out, and amongst those was Jerome Hunter. Should we take anything from that, or we kind of knew he was released to do some non-contact workouts, but that's kind of a strenuous deal. But is there anything that can be taken from that, you think?
Well, it's all kind of baby steps, I think, with Jerome Hunter right now, at least from the outside. I mean, obviously, if we're not looking at whatever treatment he's going through or training or rehab or whatever, you're not going to be able to gauge what one specific workout might mean for him. I think certainly seeing him in those settings has to be encouraging, but that's why I say baby steps. That you can't necessarily sit there and say, well, that's it. That's the best news ever. And he's doing great. And he's going to be back. But imagine if you saw him sitting on the sidelines, imagine the way that would kind of be digested or reacted to. I think it's positive news. You don't want to overreact to it. You're right. As you said, Archie said he's been cleared for a number of different activities in terms of conditioning and basketball activity and things like that. And that, Archie said that in the same breath was saying, but he's not anywhere near where we can say he's 100%, he's full go, and everything's fine. So you kind of want to be careful and pump the brakes on that a little bit. But, from Indiana's perspective, I think the more you see Jerome Hunter involved, the better, the more good news it is. That can't guarantee you anything, but it can at very least be, just a positive that you wouldn't otherwise have, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Everybody thinks that being a sports reporter or whatever is all fun and games. Tell everybody how much fun it's going to be for you for these next couple of days. What you'll be doing.
Yeah, no, AAU tournaments are a grind. I mean, they're fun. They're fun because you get to see a lot of different guys, just in a very condensed period of time. You get to be able to talk to a lot of different players. I'm going to get the chance to be able to also kind of help out some of the other Gannett sites. Indianapolis Star is owned by a company called Gannett that owns a number of different newspapers around the country. So I'll be there not just for the Star, but for others. So I'll get to see a lot of different players, a lot of talent. Guys who might be looking at Louisville, Kentucky, Iowa State, Vandy, Tennessee, whatever, even as far out as Arizona. But it's a lot of work. I mean, when you're at AAU tournaments, you can be in the gym basically morning to night with a break for lunch if you're lucky. And when you close your eyes to go to bed, you can hear basketballs dribbling behind your eardrums. So, but it's fun, and it's just kind of a different. I can remember times when in Tom Crean's early years when he was, fighting to rebuild Indiana, obviously from kind of the bottom up, basically where he took over. Recruiting was the story, and I remember all of us kind of being out on the road talking to guys like Yogi Ferrell and James Blackman and Trey Lyles and Colin Hartman and Devin Davis and Ron Patterson, and it was like that was following those kids and their development and who else Indiana was recruiting and how they all fit together. And a lot of those kids played on the same teams, whether it be Eric Gordon or Indiana Elite or Spieth. That was the story back then. And you had to follow that so religiously because, basically as much as anything else, the beat was figuring out when the future was going to arrive for an Indiana program that was struggling in the present. So AAU is definitely a grind, but it has its place too, and it can be a lot of fun, and it can be really informative to kind of knowing sort of how a program gets fashioned for the future, not just in the here and now.
Zach, we always appreciate you joining us. I can't thank you enough, man. Safe travels, and have some fun this weekend.
I'm gonna be eating public subs. Don't worry, I'll be having fun.
All right, Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Stars, where you can find him. Zach, thank you again. Safe travels.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jim.
You bet. Zach Osterman. Great to have him heading down to cover the Adidas Gauntlet, which gets underway today. Well, that's going to wrap up the program today. On the show tomorrow, we've got a lot more. John Sauber from thehoosier.com, Indiana Rivals, will join us. He is also going to be covering the Adidas Gauntlet down there, so we'll get to talk to him tomorrow. Ken Bykoff from Peaks.com, our good friend, will join us. And the Top Father, Todd O'Leary, as always, on with us on Friday. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. For Jake, I'm Jim Coyle from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. I will see you on the radio.